Barbara, thank you so much for being here. We just had the opportunity to experience commencement. It's certainly not your first commencement, but you got to experience the first WGU commencement. And you've recognized, I would suspect, that WGU in some ways is at the forefront of leveraging technology to help transform education. That's going to be our first topic, because we certainly know that we live in an era where technology is changing everything. Siemens is a technology company, even while it's in industrial sectors, and WGU is in the education sector. What would be some of the key points or advice that you would give to those who are thinking about, how do I develop my skills and capabilities for that ever-changing world of technology? How do we prepare the workforce for the future? What are some of the things that are on your mind as you lead Siemens?
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation, and thank you for the tremendous honor. Having the degree conferred today is just such a special privilege. It's been fantastic to be with WGU graduates today. And we've had the chance to talk over the last couple of days about how technology is really transforming so many aspects of the world we're living in. The things we're doing at Siemens actually align really well with the things I shared with graduates today.
Yeah.
This idea that, honestly, the thing we need to hang on to right now is being human.
Yeah. Yeah.
The skills that I'm looking for in workforce today, those in our own company and those we're seeking from the outside, really simple: curiosity and initiative. If we can find people who take it in their own hands to ask questions, go learn, and get up off the sofa and get involved in advancing themselves, those are the kind of people who are going to be building the future with us. At Siemens, we actually have a sustainability framework, and it's called the degree framework. Each letter in degree stands for one element of our overall approach and strategy. The last two E's are equity and employability. With the idea that when people come to work for Siemens, we want to make sure they're continuing to build their skills. And whether they're working for us or working for somebody else, they're relevant. So I really do think that right now, it's not so much what you learn, it's whether you know how to learn.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's almost like saying, rather than trying to predict exactly what all of us are going to be doing in the future, it's more centered around how are we as humans going to be leveraging technology to change the way in which we do the work that we do, to invent even new ways in which we do work or new things that need to be done. It's a catalyst for humans to contribute to the world, not for technology to replace humans in the world. Is that a fair?
That's right. Oh, it's so well said. And I'll go one step further. Here we are just at the dawn of the AI age.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the dawn of the quantum age and the dawn of the genomics age. Every time we've gone through one of these big technological waves, the first thing that people ask is, how do I use this technology to do what I used to do better? It takes a while then to get really creative and to say, wait a minute, how can I use this technology to do something that was never possible before?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about your graduates and wondering, this world that they're going into, what they will do with the technologies that are all around them today they have the capacity to truly send ripples, as one of our graduation speakers talked about today, send ripples out into the world.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think we shared previously in a separate conversation that notion of how we're learning and how we're creating or inventing, if you will, that technology can actually help our individuals both learn new ways of which, to do that which they're already doing, but it also can facilitate, as you mentioned, the creation of something new and different that they never even thought possible before.
Right.
Like it wasn't imagined before.
Right.
It would be weird to not have humans involved in that creative process, right? It would be weird to say, oh no, let me just outsource the creativity to AI or to some other technology. But in fact, now technology can facilitate the innovation or the invention that Siemens needs, that WGU needs, that any organization needs to say, we don't know all the things we're going to be doing in the future, but how do we leverage the technology to unleash the creative power of humans to invent what that future may look like?
Mm-hmm. This is for us at Siemens, this is the new industrial tech sector.
Yeah.
So you've seen technology change the way we live, shop, entertain ourselves.
Yeah.
There's been this internet of people that's been created over the last couple of decades.
It's a new way to think about it. It's like instead of internet of things, it's it's the internet of people.
Well, it has been. And here we go now on this new journey, which is If we can actually connect the things in our physical world, then we can bring all the power of that and make the real world better.
Yeah.
So I actually think that in this creative process, the real question is, what's our purpose? What are we endeavoring to do?
Yeah.
And if we can keep that North Star with us of, hey, look, I'm addressing a real problem that we've got, and I'm going to use technology to help me get there. I believe in the work of this author, Jeff Woods, he wrote The AI-Driven Leader, thinking about AI not as the thinker, but as your thought partner. You're the thought leader.
Yeah.
AI is your thought partner. So, there are certain problems that are just intractable. I mean, big word, right?
Yeah.
Intractable for humans. There's just things we can't wrap our brains around. But if we've got a thought partner who's capable of analyzing massive amounts of data, put it to work.
Yeah. Yeah, that we may actually be able to sense what the challenges are or the new problems we have to address. And we may even recognize that the equations to address those are really, really complicated.
Yes.
Then now I have a technology that can facilitate the solving of those equations, even while I'm seeing them where the AI or the technology isn't seeing the problem.
Yeah. So, our big message to employees is be not afraid. This
Yeah,
is right.
that's
This is a moment
Yeah.
when everybody should dive in and experiment. My favorite thing to ask at the end of a meeting, if I've got 5 minutes left, is, "Hey, how are you using AI in your role?"
Yeah.
And I hear the most incredible things. Salespeople, finance experts, managers. One of my favorite examples was actually a couple of years ago. We were working on electric aviation. Can you build a motor that's lightweight enough that you could actually have electric propulsion and save all of that fuel that we've been using in aircraft? As some engineers got into a fight about, hey, there's this cooling collar that goes around some bearings, and should the channels go horizontally or vertically? And they said, oh, let's put it to our generative design tool. And what came out was something that none of them would have envisioned.
It wasn't within the parameters of the constraints that they were designing within. Kind of just
Correct.
remove those.
Correct. And by the way, you know what? A lot of that generative design looks a lot more like nature.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So, I can't tell you how excited I am.
On a unrelated thread, someone is like, we're in the West. We're, headquartered out of Salt Lake City, Utah. We know the West for 2 decades has been in a drought.
Yeah.
Like, I imagine, how would technology, AI in particular, help us start solving some of the water challenges? Because we already know all the water we need exists on the planet. It's
That's
just not in the usable form that we need it. And I'm like, but there's all this salt water. Could we figure out ways by which, in fact, all that water becomes fresh water and usable for us? And who knows whether technology could help solve some of these really big challenges that not just one individual, but the whole of humanity could benefit from.
Well, I understand you're starting a new engineering program.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll be inspiring some of
Yeah.
those future innovators.
We're certainly inspired by just applied sciences, like that idea that says, listen, this is one of those spaces we need more talent enabled into that world of engineering, of applied sciences, because it is certainly going to be shaping the things that are invented for our future.
Yeah.
As we, think now related to this, we're certainly in the world of talent development. We're trying to tap into all that innate capacity for learning, the things that individuals are uniquely suited to contribute to the world. You're a very large employer across the U.S. and across globally. You already know how AI and technology is changing the nature of the work you're currently doing. How do you think about enabling the talent that you already have employed, or even helping partner with others that will develop the new talent that needs to come into the organization too? Siemens has certainly been known for its apprenticeship investments it's made, but share with us more about how you think about talent development.
Yeah. Well, I would tell you that one cornerstone of our management approach, our strategy at Siemens, is the recognition that growth mindset matters. This idea that we're not fixed, we're not predetermined, there's not some limit to our capacity, but instead we are recognizing we can become something different. We can learn and grow. So that's a big part of the attitude toward not only finding the right talent, but then nurturing that talent inside the organization. So, do people have a growth mindset? Are they putting the effort in to take control of their own careers? And then, of course, one goal is to make a lot of resources available to those employees inside the corporation. Okay. So we have an AI-driven platform called My Learning World. And one of the things it does is it just allows us to surface all kinds of learning tools. So whether it's academic institutions who've made modules available, or whether it's our own training programs. The cool thing about it is that employees can use AI to first assess their skills, and then second, build a roadmap.
Yeah.
What do I need to do? What do I have to tackle next?
Yeah.
And so you get this constant stream. And we've made this one of our critical measures for our management team globally, is whether our employees are actually achieving a target number of learning hours.
Oh, interesting. So it's that you recognize as almost as a critical input to the productivity and the contribution of your individuals, like how well are you learning and advancing your learning. And that's going to be a good leading indicator, if you will, to the advancement of the talent that you have.
For sure. And we've got some great stories.
And you're not constraining it in any way to only that, content that Siemens is developing.
No.
You're saying, oh no, we can leverage anything and everywhere, including the providers. So even other partners you have.
I was considering taking a board seat on a company, and I wanted to know more about what they did. They're a blockchain company.
Okay.
And I took a Coursera course that was offered, and it was, and it follows your approach in maybe, we're not doing this as rigorously as you're doing it at WGU, but what we absolutely are committed to is do it at your own pace, but complete.
Yeah. You have to be competent, but the time isn't the variable in terms of measuring learning. It's like competency is.
That's
and
right.
So you individually are better kind of judges to how much time you have to contribute to something. And so if you focus on it, then you advance at the pace.
And can I pass that assessment?
Can you pass the assessment? Can you develop the skill, the knowledge, the ability that's necessary to be competent in that role?
But we also recognize a responsibility we have as a large employer. Okay, so in Siemens, 45,000 people across the United States, in all kinds of fields, from engineering to technicians. We've got manufacturers. It's a really rich set of things that need to be done. The big question from folks is always, well, what are the skills we need for the future? And we hit a point recently, we're working as fast as we can to meet the nation's need for electrical equipment that goes into data centers, because this AI revolution we're in is demanding humongous data centers that consume a lot of power.
Yeah.
And our switchgear is needed to help move that power around a data center. We can't build it fast enough. We actually had one of the hyperscalers came to us and said, if I placed a very early, very large order, would you build me a factory and guarantee me that I could get all the contents of that factory? We said, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
So the question then was, wow, we need 700 people. And we put this factory in Fort Worth. And by the way, there are a lot of manufacturers in Fort Worth. It's not like there's a bunch of idle workforce.
Right.
What are we going to do?
Yeah.
And the choice was, and this was people on the management team in Fort Worth said, well, here's an idea. What if we hired retired principals and teachers and created a curriculum? Who do you think we would attract into manufacturing? And sure enough, we've hired so far about 500 people. They've come through an on-site, mini academic program. Then they get their first hands-on with some virtual equipment. And then they go out into the manufacturing floor. And that manufacturing environment is exciting. It's beautiful, for one thing. Mm. And then it's highly automated. And what the teams are doing, imagine a former pizza delivery guy, a former checkout clerk. They are now working in teams. And the big question they're asking is not who's going to lift that, who's going to tote that. It was, let's see, how do we get that line producing faster? And oh, by the way, we're first shift, and those people on second shift made a breakthrough last night. We got to figure out how to be as fast as they were. It's fun. Now, they're all across America. There are places like this where people are saying, pick yourself up by your bootstraps. We can actually get more done. We need people involved in fields that maybe others are, the narrative today is that, manufacturing moved overseas and it's dead. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. I think even at the root of that, I just can hear so many common and shared beliefs that we have. One you already hinted at, which is a belief in the innate capacity of individuals to learn, to better themselves, to actually develop new skills that they didn't have before. The fact that many of those individuals are coming from other fields or jobs that were not at all relevant to the new one that they're learning is like, but guess what? We can not only provide the content, but also an environment in which they're enriched in that learning process.
That's right.
But then we also think about that creativity, that innovativeness or inventiveness, whatever it may be. It said you didn't prescribe them to say, hey, this is the way you have to do this task. Just learn these activities. You own this. And so now invent or problem solve
Yeah.
or invent new ways to do stuff. You're also leveraging that technology again, utilizing the environment to create a very rich, fertile environment for individuals to start creating and problem solving in a way that's uniquely human.
And I'll share one more thing, which I actually learned just this weekend, talking to my executive assistant, Kelly Jackson.
Yeah.
We were discussing this fact that Siemens has eliminated what I've called performance management theater.
Yeah.
Right.
Theater.
So people in companies often, write a performance plan at the beginning of the year. They're supposed to have a mid-year review.
Goals,
Set goals, and hopefully they're good stretch goals. But you set those goals mid-year. You come and you have a conversation about it. Oh, it's actually not mid-year. It's probably 9 months into the year.
Yeah.
And then you scramble at the end of the year because we got to get everybody's final assessments in. And Kelly pointed out to me that ever since Siemens abolished that, we've actually outperformed. Did those goals actually create a false ceiling for what we could achieve?
That's interesting.
Did people say, well, that's enough. I've met my goals for the year. Instead of saying, how much more could I do right now?
It's so counterintuitive to what one might imagine because everyone thinks about setting goals, especially you use the same phrase, a stretch goal, right?
Yeah.
The smart notion is like, they need to be stretch,
Right.
measurable, achievable,
Right.
all that kind of stuff. And then you're like, actually, the goals ended up being a limiting factor more than a stretch factor.
In a
meaning that-
high-performing team, we stretch each other
Yeah.
on a daily basis.
Yeah,
Right.
you're never done. I mean, even if you accomplish something, it's like you all of a sudden see the next summit that you have to pursue. But if you only say, well, I achieved my goal, I'll set goals for next year, but now I'll be kind of done. You're like, actually, if you remove those constraints, individuals are always pressing forward.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And then think about Kelly. So here she is. She's been managing the office. She's got a team of folks working for her. She's studying AI and data right now. And she's going to be key in helping us actually transform the way we do our work using technology.
Have you found actually specific tactics or approaches that helps every individual, those 45,000 individuals, every one of them feel empowered to utilize that technology, the AI in particular, to think differently about the how they do the job that they currently have, new things that need to be done that aren't being done? I think what this often tends to be an indicator that the organizations or the companies, et cetera, they're truly at the frontier of leveraging technology to advance how they do it. It's because every individual within that organization is empowered to do so. Have you found particular tactics to be effective in doing that, to empower everyone?
This is so tricky. This is so tricky. And by the way, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So let's talk about this for a minute because so what we'll do at Siemens when we're trying to introduce something new is we'll make the tools available. Okay, so we're going to make tools available and teams everywhere can consider, hey, could I use that in the way I do things? Here's the problem. You easily then get into a situation where 1,000 flowers bloom. And suddenly you're discovering that, every single sales team has an AI-driven tool that they're using, and they're all different.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have that big dilemma that I think happens at the front end of all innovation waves, which is, are we going to actually standardize and streamline? Can we get our arms around this? Should we get our arms around this? Or are we still in that stage where the most important thing to do right now is let people create?
Yeah.
That's a big balance. And by the way, in an organization as large as ours, the other thing you discover is pockets of culture. So there are places where there are leaders who get this and say, listen, if I'm able to give people the freedom to go play, then we're going to get great results at the end of the day. Others are still married to that old idea of I have to be in control. And so maybe dictating to people, yes, you can, and no, you can't.
Yeah.
It's a constant voyage to try to find that right balance so that we're not wasting a lot of money chasing a bunch of stuff that's never going to reach critical scale versus introducing things and scaling fast.
Yeah, there still is that challenge that says, we don't have infinite resources to deploy against our priorities.
Yeah, let's get real.
So that 1,000 flowers bloom it's an interesting notion. You want to initially foster that creativity, but then you want to have some way by which you're promoting the most impactful ideas that come out of that.
Yeah.
How do you then package that so that you can collectively move it forward into changing the practices or processes that you have? There's some of that needs to be learned but I do like the idea of starting with just creating a highly fertile environment for the creativity powered by technology, but not being beholden, if you will, to the command and control notion of like, oh, well, someone here has the decision-making
We've done the business case. And we're going to establish micro milestones.
Yeah. Thank you
towards
for
our
your
goal.
idea. We ran a business case on it. We reject your idea. Yeah.
I mean, right? These are
Yeah.
the things that happen in organizations. And I was on the dais today having great conversations with your team, and we had a little laugh about that idea that, yes, it's a 45,000 person organization, but honestly, once you get more than 10 people working on something together, you run into this problem of it's hard to align. I'm actually really curious to learn from you because you've done something so innovative here with WGU. You've first of all, really disrupted the way we've so traditionally thought about the academic process. And my question to you is, do you have a sense in your organization of next? Or are you running an organization that has really finely honed this and says, we've got the recipe, let's just continue to do this and do this well?
The short answer is we probably think in a dual track mindset in this regard, in the sense that we do believe that certain secret ingredients we have are true differentiators that WGU has created to really help individuals access this high quality education and ultimately persist and complete.
Yeah.
Because in conventional models, they weren't achieving that. And so there's examples like mentoring really, really matters.
Right.
Like this human support that's necessary to help individuals navigate their educational journey while also living their life.
You shared with me that you have two individuals. One is sort of the
instructor, the core kind of subject matter expert on any particular topic, but the mentor is with you across all of those courses that may be in your program.
Yeah.
The mentor is really there to help you progress in your educational advancement while also balancing it in the context of your broader life, your professional and family commitments, disruptions that may occur, et cetera. But the mentor is also there to help you kind of hold on to that vision of your envisioned future self, the one enabled by all the talent and the capacity to contribute that comes from education. So there's certain things like mentoring that we know is like, oh no, those things have to persist in any future that we envision. And so we are thinking about how does technology enable us to do better that which we're already really, really good at? But then there's the other track, which is what are the things that we haven't even thought of that now in an AI native context that are possible and that we couldn't even fathom in the current context. And a simple example I'd give in that is how do you truly personalize learning? It's like, I shared with you that we serve over 190,000 individuals concurrently right now, full time.
Yeah.
Larger than the combination of many universities, like sum all those up.
Right.
But that's not a faceless mass of 190,000 people that just get a standard product. Like, what's the old adage of Henry Ford? Is like, oh yeah, you can have any car you want as long as it's black. You're like, no, we don't do that. We're actually trying to figure out how to serve every individual and do that 190,000 times.
Yeah.
And so what AI can do for instruction and learning, it can democratize in a way and personalize in a way that the internet democratized access to education. Because if the internet just said, now I can access content, I could actually receive personal instruction in a virtual environment. But now AI, we see personalizing the instruction so that it really adapts to how you learn, how you progress, how you synchronize your kind of utilization of content, et cetera. That to us is like, well, how would we even think totally differently then about that world? So what's next in that? I would say we're just at the beginning of discovery. We don't yet know what are the things that in fact have real impact and real promise. How do we then distill and organize resources against those most promising things? And anyone who says they think they know it, I think they're just lying, honestly. It's like, I just don't think we know yet. What we do know is it's going to be huge and it'll just allow us to keep differentiating. There's some interesting cultural aspects to that too. You hinted at some of this. And this may be one of those segues that we can even use to something that you and I have been involved with. The cultural thing is, I got really, really good at doing something that I was strong at.
Yep.
But what I did may not be what I need to do. And so how do I give up an identity in some ways that was attached to a model of things that existed to be able to do something new? And so we ourselves are trying to manage through that culture. And I would say that one thing we try to always anchor on is we're really, really clear that the student and the individual is the primary beneficiary of everything that we do. And if we hold on to something that in the future is no longer relevant, then in fact we aren't serving the human, the individual, like we need to be, because it's keeping us from doing all that we could do for that human if we just hold on to what we have. And so an example of that, I think, even in the broader talent space, is this notion of skills architected or skills-based talent economy, right? This idea that employers have declared that we're moving to skills-based. They've seen the kind of the limits that can exist around degrees, that it keeps them from seeing all the talent that could be out there, including existing employees that have all the skills that are needed for jobs. But if they don't have a certain credential or degree, then they're not actually even considered as a candidate. Employers have even said, oh, we're going to move this way. But I think the most recent data said something like only 1 in 700 job openings were hired on a skills basis. Are there things like this that you see also needing to change in our mindset, our cultural kind of construct that we've created around individuals and the top talent and those that are, the best and everything else like that? What are some of those things that you think we need to be cognizant of changing to help us create a more equal, you actually used equitable, and employability, or equitability and employability? It's like, well, one of the notions of equity is like, oh no, there's an equal probability of access and opportunity, and that in fact individuals are all enabled to contribute in the way that they uniquely can. But that's not what we live in today, and skills has some of that promise to do that. What are some of the things that you see there as having to happen for us to maybe realize a different envisioned future?
It's so interesting. It sounds like the things that we're working on are going through parallel changes. At Siemens, we're switching from being a large industrial conglomerate to being a tech company. And AI is one of those foundational technologies underneath that's changing. And again, this is a reference to Jeff Wood's AI-driven leader, is he begins the book with a look back at how we prepared employees and what we expected of employees in the past and out of an educational system. And if you think about it, it was industrial. The whole education system was designed to, in a repeatable fashion, produce what was needed to get the work done. And what we asked of employees was to be there on time, be in the seat, and if you unleash yourself from the mass production and think instead of mass customization, then you actually think differently about the problem and how to approach it. And so here we are, we're turning the axis of a corporation on its side and saying, we're going to focus on the enabling technologies that combine the real and the digital world. And what we're going to do is put technologies into the hands of creative people, and they're going to build a future that we're all going to thrive in. We're going to love living in that world. Well, you're going to mass customization as well for the skills and talents needed by the people. So I'm excited about this, that in a future in which we might have very flexible employment. If we can get labor laws to change around the world, right? You can imagine a kind of, I've worked with a CEO, I've served on his board, and he actually published a new deal for manufacturers saying, hey, I'm going to free you from your 3-shift approach so that we can actually take advantage of the human talent that we have when we need it, when you're available, live your life and have it mesh better with the needs of our manufacturing. I'm so delighted we're having this conversation, because I believe that if we come at this from different angles, a lot of this is going to converge in a realization that, first of all, we've got declining populations all around the world. We're going to need more people. This is not about, are there some elites who get more than others? We actually need everybody in to do the things that are going to help our societies thrive.
It's interesting. Is like, I didn't even think of the context you presented there, this idea that we even develop talent as if they were task-based automatons. Like, this idea is like, hey, just do this thing and repeat it.
Are you doing the volume of work I'm expecting of you?
So, and that was that industrial kind of design.
Amen.
It says, hey, we were developing individuals who can perform certain tasks, but that's not uniquely human per se. It doesn't mean that we didn't need the humans to do it. It just means that wasn't necessarily uniquely human, especially pre-technology, pre-robotics, everything. You start to realize, like,
too often they were literally extensions of the machine world that was being developed. Yes.
Right. But now we're actually where technology is facilitating them uniquely human capabilities like problem solving, communication, reasoning, creativity, things like that, to say, Well, now you can even imagine those task-based processes that have to occur and actually how they're going to get done and how do we utilize technology and robotics to do all those things too. That those are ways in which we see now being at the threshold of leveraging the human capacity to contribute in a way that we did previously. And it does change the talent dynamic, the talent development dynamic for sure. That's very helpful, I would say, like encouraging and envisioning. So I suppose like maybe just to end our conversation is like, what makes you particularly hopeful about the future given this intersection that you find leading Siemens at? Technology is a huge part of it. You know, industriousness and industrial is still a huge part of our economy. Manufacturing is a huge part of it. What do you look at where you find the most hope?
Oh, well, there are sort of, I'll say two major things that give me this foundation for hope, for optimism. And by the way, I describe myself as a hard optimist, right?
A hard optimist.
Look at the facts, look at reality.
Oh, yeah.
But then two things. One is when you go deep, especially in these areas Siemens is engaged in, right? We're addressing global megatrends, climate change, urbanization, the aging demographics of people everywhere. If you're working on these big, really long-term hard problems, it turns out everybody's interested in getting to the right answer. I don't care about political parties. I don't care about religious beliefs. It's we want to live in a world and we want to pass this on to our children. And so this fundamental belief that we all really want the same outcome here at the end of the day is encouraging. And then to realize that we've got the technologies we need. So right now, really the only question is, what do we wish for?
Yeah, and I suspect in the answer to that question, it goes back to what you just shared, which is we'll find that, in fact, we share more alike than we share different.
Indeed.
In fact, we want more of the same future, not less of the same. Like, we actually want those same.
That's what I keep finding with everyone I talk to.
Yeah.
Now, wait, I have one question for you before we finish. Today, you conferred on me a doctorate.
Yeah.
And can I now get my grandchildren out of school for a doctor's appointment?
Yes, you can even sign it. You can just say, "Is like now, Dr. Humpton dismisses my grandchild from this because they have an appointment with me."
I'm
It may just
imagining
be
some
for
play
lunch.
dates.
Yeah,
Play dates for the future.
Lunch, some ice cream.
There we go.
You can do that. He's
Doctor's
like,
appointment.
You know, have that. So, and it would totally be within your rights to make your husband call you Dr. Barbara or something like that. You can use that
I'm
to your
using that.
advantage. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you again.
Well, thank you so much, Barbara, for being with us. And it truly is a pleasure. Hopefully, out of this experience, too, you received all that energy of seeing that incredible talent that exists
I've
everywhere.
learned so much, and I'm going to be cheering for you for sure.
Thank you so much.